Mr. Law, for a very interesting and innovative keynote address that held the attention of everyone right here. It is my pleasure now to invite on the dais the U.S. Consul General for Mumbai, Mr. Thomas L. Vaidya, for his keynote address titled U.S.-India Partnerships in Making Cities Smarter. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly put your hands together for Mr. Thomas L. Vaidya.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for inviting me here today. It's really a pleasure to be part of this innovative forum. I'm really very impressed with the issues that you all are covering. Obviously, they're important to the city of Mumbai, they're important to India, indeed they're important to the entire world, and in fact, they certainly matter to the United States, and that's why it's really such a privilege for me to be able to participate today. I've been here in Mumbai now for about 2.5 years as the Consul General, and really the time I've been here is, I think, corresponded to what I would term a really remarkable progress, a remarkable trajectory in the U.S.-India partnership. So our ties, the U.S.-India ties now are close as they've ever been. I truly believe that, and we are working together as governments, as peoples, more closely and more effectively in more areas than ever before. Just as a few examples, so our two leaders, President Obama, Prime Minister Modi, have met 8 times in the last 2 years. Again, unprecedented level of engagement. Our two governments have created a hotline among our two leaders so that they can speak together during periods of importance in the world, including, for example, when they were helping to secure conclusion of a successful climate change agreement in Paris. Again, climate change, health, education, security, defense, even space exploration. These are a number of areas in which our governments are working extraordinarily closely. All, I think, supported by this foundation of what I feel truly is a convergence of interests and values between the United States and India. Of course, fundamental to our partnership really are our very strong and growing economic ties. And here the news, I think, is also pretty good. So in 2015, we reached a record level of bilateral trade, about nearly $110 billion. That's up threefold over the past decade. There are now 500 American companies that are with active operations here in India. U.S. companies have invested $15 billion here just in the last 2 years. Meanwhile, we're seeing a great increase in Indian investment in the United States, which we welcome as well. So aggregate Indian investment in the United States now over $15 billion, with 100 Indian companies spread across 35 states and employing nearly 100,000 Americans. Again, demonstrating, I think, the incredible connectivity between our two economies and our two societies. Our bilateral partnership has at its root, though, a commitment to improve the economic conditions and the opportunities for people in both our countries. As I said, while we have a close partnership with India on a wide range of initiatives, we are particularly excited about our work together on smart cities. In my government's case, with the intent really to help support India's own goal of making cities more efficient, cleaner, safer, healthier, and greener. This is important because the world is undergoing a democratic transition that is unprecedented in history. Urbanization is increasing around the world, especially here in India, and more people are flocking to metropolises in search of greater opportunity and a better future for themselves and their families. Technological innovations are transforming society, facilitating greater migration from rural areas. Affordable transportation networks enable people to move more easily from rural to urban areas, and the spread of cellular networks and advances in communications technology have also exposed rural populations to the allure of cities. Meanwhile, changing weather patterns and rising temperatures are affecting economic conditions, which in themselves are also prompting flights to cities. It's important to note that 100 years ago, just 2 out of 10 people lived in cities. Today, that number is equal to half the world's population. Worldwide, approximately 200,000 people per day are migrating from rural to urban areas. This is truly uncharted territory. By 2050, it's estimated that 70% of the world's population will live in cities, and most of the rapid growth will occur in Asia and Africa, and of course, right here in India. 300 million people are expected to move to India's rapidly expanding cities over the next 20 years. That's roughly equivalent to the entire population of the United States. India's urban population will grow more rapidly than in China, South America, or the West. And by 2030, it's believed that India is expected to lead the world in the growth of megacities, defined as cities with populations of more than 10 million people. there will be much more demand for space and infrastructure to meet this growth. But, according to a McKinsey report, almost 70 to 80% of the infrastructure, the physical space of Indian cities have yet to be built. The combined market potential for smart infrastructure in the sectors of energy, transportation, water, healthcare, and governance is therefore enormous, estimated upwards of $1.5 trillion over the next 5 years, according to a recent industry study. The fact is, India will be one of the world's leaders in growth in cities in the coming years at a scale and pace that few have ever witnessed before. So this will present both enormous challenges but also significant opportunities. Challenges on governance, challenges on safety, pollution, health, law and order, but also significant opportunities. That's why I think the Prime Minister's Smart Cities Initiative is so important so that India's urban centers can be transformed for those who live there. Speaking on behalf of the United States, we've been very pleased to share our experience in this area with our Indian counterparts. American companies, consumers, and cities have been active in the smart city arena for quite some time, and some of the initiatives in these cities can also pertain to India. As we speak, New York City is turning its phone booths into Wi-Fi hotspots in a quest to build the world's largest Wi-Fi network. San Francisco now has 100 charging stations across the city to promote hybrid and electric cars, and citizens in Boston can use 5 different municipal apps to report problems in their neighborhood or find parking. Seattle residents can monitor their own power usage on any given day and make adjustments through their handheld devices. On a typical day in an American city, a resident might travel to work using a neighborhood bike share, ride on a new bike lane to the metro, knowing in advance whether bikes are available and whether the metro has any delays. At work, he or she may pay her utility bill, order groceries, turn up the heat in the house, use Uber to get home, with the driver avoiding those roads that are too congested, all through information that is provided real-time on a smartphone. There is no turning back on the smart cities revolution. It's not just the big cities. Citizens across America and now across the globe are demanding smarter, more connected, and more efficient living spaces. So what are we doing here in India to share our experience? At the request of the Indian government, we're very pleased to be the leading partner in helping to develop 3 cities, Vizag, Ajmer, and Allahabad. Representatives from various U.S. government agencies, including the State Department, the Commerce Department, USAID, Department of Energy, have been involved in multiple efforts with all these cities. In Ajmer, for example, we support U.S. companies working to modernize the railway infrastructure, create traffic management systems, and improve security and surveillance systems. In Allahabad, we are involved in e-governance and waste management projects. In Vizag, we also have e-governance projects as well as environmentally focused projects around protecting Andhra Pradesh's coastline. We're using our convening power to enlist the support of U.S. government financial agencies and finance agencies such as EXIM and OPIC, and also partnering with major Indian business associations, as when we organized a major U.S. industry engagement with Vizag last April. We also then followed up with a large trade mission to India with a number of U.S. leading technology companies presenting their solutions in various cities in a mission that was led by our Deputy Secretary of Commerce. And we're also organizing what we call a reverse trade mission, whereby we bring officials from the Ministry of Urban Development to the United States to visit a number of cities and see smart cities in action. We've established with our Indian counterparts a so-called infrastructure collaboration platform, which again seeks to facilitate private sector participation in Indian infrastructure projects. This consortium of over 30 companies market specific capabilities that support key components of smart city projects such as energy, especially renewables and smart grid technology, water and sanitation, safety and health, transportation and security. Let me mention 3 specific areas on which, in my view, we really should focus in the months and years ahead. The first is local solutions and careful planning. While we want projects to be scalable, and we shouldn't be forced to reinvent the wheel on every occasion, projects do have to be based on local needs and locally driven solutions. That means really understanding what the needs are and what the local community actually wants. We saw this firsthand in Vizag, where careful polling and detailed discussions with community groups was undertaken to ensure that the ideas initiated were actually what would best serve the community. The outreach resulted in well-thought-out plans that citizens, officials, and companies can follow and assess progress. After all, smart cities are not destinations, but are part of a process. They are all about continuous collaboration among private and public stakeholders to improve the quality of life for urban dwellers. The second focus area is innovation, technology, and good governance. Smart cities must continue to use and benefit from the latest advances in innovation and advanced technologies. In Silicon Valley last fall, the Prime Minister spoke repeatedly about innovation. He called for bringing together the best minds of India and the United States who could use the latest advances in science and technology to solve our two countries and indeed the world's biggest challenges. In short, he encouraged all of us to look at ways to harness our great networks of entrepreneurs and innovators to improve the lives of ordinary people. He said, quote, "In this digital age, we have an opportunity to transform the lives of people in ways that were hard to imagine just a couple of decades ago." But we can't think of technology as a panacea. It's obviously not a cure-all, and we cannot forget that fundamental relationships are still essential. Those relationships that we form, the ability to build consensus, and our ability to hear and understand each other still form the core of our interactions, and no device or smart app can substitute for that interaction. An app, for example, cannot replace a town hall meeting or eliminate the need for citizens to be able to meet face-to-face with city officials when necessary. Relationships matter. Building trust is imperative. Good governance will continue to be essential. But as I said before, technology can be the accelerator, the connector, and the enabler. I've seen firsthand what U.S. companies are doing and the good that our technologies and know-how can provide. We also have to keep in mind that innovations and technologies don't always come from large and well-known companies. We have, for example, seen young women from a slum area here in Mumbai develop a safety app with a GPS locator and a panic function to improve women's safety. We've seen tech innovations from high schoolers in Chennai who developed an app to help citizens get rid of trash by creating an online marketplace. And many health NGOs have rolled out innovations in terms of digital health to get advanced diagnosis and treatment for those who cannot travel to a clinic or to a hospital. These are just a few of the countless important innovations being developed by Indians and Americans every day. We have to continue to seek out, support, and foster the spirit of innovation in both our countries. The third area of focus is financing. The biggest challenge consistently identified by American companies and stakeholders relates to financing infrastructure and smart city projects in India. The Ministry of Urban Development is starting to capitalize the Smart City program with funds for the first tranche of winners of its challenge competition, and has mandated that cities establish special purpose vehicles for project management and implementation. Many Indian states are following suit, appropriating funds for their own smart cities, including here in Maharashtra. These are very important steps that have resonated with American companies that are seeking clarity on the way forward. We've had a productive dialogue with the national government also, as well as with individual state, on individual project finance strategies, including some pilot projects on the use of municipal bonds and improved public-private partnership frameworks. But much remains to be done to attract the levels of private capital and develop the kind of innovative financing mechanism that can support large-scale and sustainable urban infrastructure projects. Making progress on all the ease of doing business indicators will also continue to be essential in attracting, maintaining, and growing investments in Indian smart cities. I truly believe that great things are possible in the years ahead with continued innovation, careful planning, hard work, and community involvement. In closing, let me just say that as a U.S. diplomat here in India, I'm excited about the possibilities that lie ahead not only for American and Indian businesses, but for the chance for all of us to help transform the way that people live. So thank you again for inviting me, and I wish you all success here at this conference and beyond. Thank you.